All right, welcome back to episode 13. I always lose count, even though there's only 13. I'm pretty sure it's 13.
You're doing a better job of keeping track than I am.
Yeah, of the Coaches Roundtable. We will be going through 3 questions, 2 submitted from Sarah and 1 from M. So, should we go straight in?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go with M's question first because I think it's an interesting topic of discussion. It's not so much like a wrong and right answer. So we'll see where we go down the rabbit hole. So question from Emily is, do you think the elitist mentality is what fuels doping in weightlifting?
No. I don't know. I think it's, we kind of touched on this. Did we just discuss this a little bit on the last one, or was that just a side?
I can't remember. I don't think we did it.
No.
No, we only spoke about what drugs we'd take.
Yeah. No, I think like, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. So it was essentially like, is the elitist kind of like thing with weightlifting what causes it? I don't think so. I think it's, people basically dope as just a result of money, or just mostly money, or just because they're paid to do it and they need to keep their job, especially if it's a state-sponsored thing. I think with any sport you're going to get a degree of elitism. I find what do you think? Because I feel like, yeah, weightlifters can be a little bit elitist, but kind of compared to other sports.
No, I see where you're going with this. Like, I think I agree with you that from our perspective as coaches, and from knowing a lot of weightlifters in various backgrounds, various countries, like personally as well, I think by and large, the general population of weightlifters don't tend to be elitist. I want to say, like, I don't know whether that's me just being, positive, but generally most of the people that I speak to who are weightlifters themselves don't really get that air of superiority. However, I wonder if that's because of the personality that we have, and also the fact that we are also weightlifters of some like fairly decent pedigree. Like, we're not amazing. Well, you're better than I am, but we're, in terms of like, if you were like, on GB squad, potential for the Olympics, we're, I don't know, a 7 out of 10.
Bin juice.
I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10.
All right.
But yeah, and I think obviously on the flip side, I have also met some weightlifters who might come across as maybe not being elitist, but I think definitely potentially their personality is a little bit more forward, a little bit more extroverted. They kind of like, you get the impression that they only really care about what everyone else thinks about their lifts, rather than them actually, doing it for any other reason.
You definitely, yeah, you do get the odd one. I'll admit that. I think it's such a technical sport that once you get to kind of like an intermediate and then advanced stage within it, you kind of, there's always something that you're shit at, that you're trying to work on, and you can't really be elitist when you know that you can't lift, even though to everyone else you looks like you can.
Well, I mean, sometimes, you could also argue the counterpoint that I've known people who have been fairly shit at weightlifting or any kind of sport, but yet they've still had that kind of air of superiority around them. And I don't know whether that's just because it's their personality, or whether they're just trying to make up for something that they don't have, like little man syndrome.
Yeah.
Like that sort of.
Is it the sport, or is it the personality that causes?
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, and like we obviously are involved in the world of weightlifting, and I think the longer you're involved and the more involved you are, the less it becomes about like, oh, they're elitist or that's elitist. But I can definitely see, like, for example, a newbie walking into a gym box, for example, and there's 4 or 5 weightlifters, and they're all kind of like talking, or like maybe they're not talking, but they're just, you know, lifting heavy. That could be quite intimidating for someone who has either they're not very good or they've just started, or, you know, they get the impression that those weightlifters are sort of like flaunting it. But I think it like you said, it depends on the personality, because generally with most of the people that we come across in gym box, not all of them, but pretty much all of the weightlifters that we speak to in gym box are all like sound people.
Well, this is it, because
I,
it's like,
I absolutely love chatting to all of the
yeah.
guys and girls that we don't train with, but we see them down at gym box, and it's awesome to see them lift and stuff like that. And I think, but like I said, we're immersed in that world. Like we're not just weightlifters, we're also coaches. So we see a different side to athletes that athletes might see to other athletes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see what I mean?
I was going to say, like, you know, for a beginner, I totally understand that. Like coming in, seeing a group of people, and you're like, oh God, they're lifting really well, and I'm just going to take this platform just on the end and hope that nobody looks at me. But it's like, because it's such a small sport, I don't know, it's probably the same for you, but if I'm any gym, it can be gym box, it can be somewhere else, you know, if I see another weightlifter, I'm going to go up and start chatting to them.
Absolutely.
There's so few of us that, like, you know, you see someone else snatching or clean and jerking and just like, oh, let's go and make friends.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not, if somebody comes in and, like, you know, they're new to the sport or they don't lift as well, I don't I don't care about any of that. Like, I just want to go chat to you.
Gravitate towards
Few
them.
of us anyway. That, like,
but again, that affirms your point that it comes down to personality, because not everyone would do that.
I don't know. I feel like, but you see it at every gym. You know, all the weightlifters congregate. Just how it is. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, you do get the odd person who gets exiled.
Of course.
Can't behave, but, like,
of course.
You know.
Yeah. So then I guess kind of like bringing it back to the question, you also mentioned to start off with that potentially elitism isn't driven by doping in sport. And I definitely agree to some degree in countries where you are paid, not necessarily paid to take drugs, but you are paid to do your sport, which in turn might put you in a position where you are forced to take performance enhancing drugs, or for example, you have no bloody clue what they are and your coach has been giving you them for the last 15 years since you were a 10-year-old girl in Thailand.
Would be good for your strange knee.
Yeah, you've no clue. And I think in that respect, I don't think that is what drives elitism, especially in those countries, because essentially they are lifting for their living. They're not just lifting as a hobby. Whereas most of the people in Western society, especially in the UK and in America, we lift as a hobby. We're hobbyists. Let's be honest. If you don't earn any money from actually lifting on a competition stage, you are not an elite lifter. It's like, I don't know how else to say that. Obviously, the British lifters, they don't get paid, but they do get some form of, you know, support. But it's a bit different, the structure of obviously.
No, but I figure, like, you know, once you hit international, you're basically elite, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Whether you get paid or not is going to depend on, you know, your national governing
body, absolutely, sponsors, stuff like that. Yeah.
What mood UK sport is in at the moment?
Yeah, precisely. And I'm not just talking about getting freebies from Instagram because you've got 10,000 followers. That's a little bit different because, like, you know, it obviously you don't have Instagram that much in loads of countries. You don't have Instagram, and I'm pretty sure that there's hundreds of lifters that would have 30,000 followers, something like that, and they're not getting sponsorships because of that. So it's a little bit different. I'm talking about actually getting paid from the national governing body or your coach or whoever the fuck it is. Someone is paying you. I want to touch on whether it would be more prominent in, let's just say, Great Britain, the UK, because I don't really know the US system very well. Do you think, and I'm not talking about the elite level lifters, I'm talking about just generally, like general lifters in the UK, okay, do you think that it would be elitism would be driven there? For example, if someone sees you snatch 120 kilos, right? And you then take drugs, okay, and then the only reason you're taking drugs is because you want to look good on Instagram, or you want to look good in the gym, or it. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I think outside of places where you're not getting paid full time to be an athlete and you're taking drugs, you're only doing it for your ego.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
I'm not afraid to say that. Like, if someone wants to, I mean, I don't even know who bloody listens to this, but if someone wants to say, well, that's not true, then I'm happy to sit down and discuss. But I genuinely think that if you're not getting any money from this and you're taking performance enhancing drugs, you're doing it for your ego. You're not doing it for anyone else.
But then, just to play devil's advocate here, if we're not getting paid for it, we're doing it for our ego, and we're not doing it for anyone else.
Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Because taking drugs and training is very different. I think I definitely I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's slightly.
You're not disagreeing.
Not disagreeing with you. If I chuck in as many negatives as possible, you have no idea whether it's positive or negative. So
what was that line? There's a brilliant line.
I'm not disagreeing with you,
yeah.
but I'm also not disagreeing with you. No, but I mean, you are right in some respect. If you're not getting paid for it, then I guess it is technically to do with your ego. But I don't know. I don't know if it goes a bit further than that. I mean, obviously taking drugs and training is very different. Like, if you just train because you enjoy it and you're somewhat good at it, but you don't take performance enhancing drugs, I don't really agree that you're doing that just for your ego. Some people might, who knows, but I personally think that if you're lifting and you're a hobbyist, you're not getting paid, but you're taking performance enhancing drugs, I don't know. I just feel like it's more of an ego boost than anything else.
I guess what you mean, because you're trying to take something that is a hobby, like super serious, and it's like,
yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't do that. If you want to do that, you go right ahead. I don't care.
I think this is it. It's like, because it's actually hilarious just how rife, taking PEDs is in just like regular gyms.
Yeah.
Regular gyms. Fortunately, in this country, it's not illegal to have them. It's illegal to sell them if you don't have the licenses. It's not illegal to have them or use them. I think actually, no, use would be. I'm not an expert. Consult your lawyers, but like, it's really, really, it's just a shortcut for people.
Yeah.
I had conversations with just fucking beginners in commercial gyms, just like discussing it. I'm like, no. Just why? Just learn fucking how to write a program before you start messing with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or save your money and pay a coach instead of buying drugs.
Well, this is it. I think like they're not worth touching unless you absolutely know what you're doing with them, because of, again, all the side effects. Nothing comes for free. But then at that point, you're basically a professional anyway. So like, and if you are a professional in the UK, like,
it's not worth it.
An Olympic gold, then maybe. But like beyond that, like there's no fucking point. There's no point unless you're doing it for like bodybuilding or to look good, or just because you're an impatient person who can't wait to. I don't know. I don't understand it. But just just don't compete against people who aren't taking them when you're taking them. Okay.
Yeah. To be fair, I was actually listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan, and it was about like drugs. And he was saying that bodybuilding doesn't exist, but bodybuilding with drugs does.
Yeah.
it's weightlifting is becoming like that.
No.
Anyway, though, I feel like we're getting a bit off topic, but I definitely see where we're going. I think from our perspective, I don't know whether there's so much an elitist mentality as people think. I think it's just the more you get involved with the sport, the more people you know, the more people you chat to. If your personality is, out there and you like to speak to people and, whatever, it's a little bit different. On the flip side, you might also think that potentially could be some places that do give off the vibe that is elitist. But, you're always going to have that in every single sport.
Yeah,
it doesn't just come down to that gym. It might just come down to that one person or that, that group of people, or
But even then, it can just be like, it's not elitist, but that's just your impression of it based
Precisely,
on your
yeah,
own experiences in other
yeah,
sports. And,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. I told you that would be a good discussion. Okay, so we've got 2 from Sarah.
Ooh.
So the first one is, what differences are there when you coach weightlifting as a tool for athletes in other sports versus coaching people to train to compete in weightlifting?
Oh, you're probably better qualified to answer this one, so I'll leave this one to you.
Oh, oh goodness. I mean, to be honest, weightlifting outside of Olympic weightlifting is a means to an end. I generally don't tend to coach weightlifting for any of my other athletes who aren't weightlifters already. One, because it takes too much time, I think, personally. Yes, you could quite easily teach someone how to do a hang power clean, or, you know, a hang power snatch or a pull. But to be honest, I'd rather spend my time developing other skills. Like, if you want to get more powerful as a general athlete, do more jumps, squat heavier, pull, like as in deadlift, sprint. Like, you don't like, weightlifting is just a singular tool. Whereas with weightlifting, to develop a weightlifter to compete, it's very, very different, because we're looking at it from the perspective of their sport is to pick up a barbell and put it over their head. So the most important thing for us as weightlifters is how much weight is on that bar, regardless of technique and strength. I'm talking about the aim of a competition is how much weight is on the bar, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
I can try if you want.
there's a couple of other nuances, but, you know, whereas with other athletes, let's take an American football player. Their sport is American football. It's not necessarily how much weight is on the bar. And I know that I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole and say, like, yes, I'm not saying that American footballers need to get stronger and, you know, they need to get more powerful, but their main goal is not how much weight is on the barbell. Yes, it's going to help them in their sport, but their sport is not weightlifting. Whereas for us, obviously, it is. And I think that's really, I'm pretty sure I answered that question, but honestly, I think that's all it comes down to, is weightlifting outside of Olympic weightlifting is just a tool, whereas weightlifting for weightlifters is our sport. So it doesn't just come down to developing power by using the snatch and the clean and jerk. It comes down to we are trying to get better at those specific movements. So we're doing everything in our power, technique, strength, speed, to improve those 2 competition lifts.
Yeah.
And I think that's really,
you know, for example, if you're training for another sport, you're using snatch to increase your power, but if you're training for weightlifting, you're increasing your power to increase your snatch.
Yeah, precisely. Exactly. Yeah. That, I mean, I don't want to go too much down to a rabbit hole, but I think that really kind of summarizes it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully that answered the question. I thought I was going to go into a massive long rant, but I started talking and I was like, actually,
I'll put my feet up.
Yeah. All right. So question number 2 from Sarah is, what value do you think there is for athletes in learning to coach? For example, doing British weightlifting level 1, and what would you recommend as the best way to go? This is quite a long question, so I reckon maybe we'll save the second half of the question for another time. So I reckon let's just stick with, what value do you think there is for athletes in learning to coach, for example, doing their British weightlifting level 1?
Yeah. What's the whole question? Because it will give us a little bit of context.
So but the other question is, what would you recommend as the best way to go about learning more about methodology of programming and coaching? So it's slightly different, I think.
Okay, yeah. So one is like, how do I become a coach? One is, how useful is being a coach for training, essentially, and becoming a better athlete?
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, the first one is, would learning how to coach make me a better athlete? And the
Yes.
second one is, how do I go about becoming a coach and learning how to get better? Yeah. So I reckon let's just go with, would learning how to coach make me a better athlete?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Absolutely. Like, short answer, it would. Yeah, absolutely.
I think like kind of using my own experience as an example here. I think I don't know, you know, I can't predict the future, but for me, I've always been the kind of athlete before I am a coach.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that, like, you know, I'm a shit coach. Hopefully, I'm not. But like, it's always like if I had to choose between being an athlete or a coach, I'd be an athlete. If you had to choose between being an athlete or a coach, you'd probably be a coach, right?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, there you go. It's just different kind of approaches. So I never thought that I would get kind of into the coaching game. It just kind of happened after a while. You know, you have enough experience, and you know, you start, you know, riding shotgun with your own coach, and then all of a sudden you're running a club. And
how did we get here?
how do we get here? It's been a year. What the hell? And no, but it's funny because I think as a coach, you're not, as an athlete, you're dealing with one person. That's yourself. You know, you're learning all the ins and outs of all your different leverages, your strengths, your weaknesses, your proportions, your background, everything. You are the expert on yourself. And but as a coach, you have like sometimes like week to week new people coming in,
Yeah.
and you know, and every new person presents a new challenge. Like, they will have different proportions, they will have different strengths and weaknesses, they will have different experiences and backgrounds, and also like just the influence that kind of character and mindset has on how someone is able to progress and how someone lifts is quite striking. But I never was able to appreciate any of that until kind of becoming a coach and being able to experience it, that kind of thing. But also kind of through teaching other people how to lift, you learn a lot about how to lift yourself.
Yeah.
Because like some people have, like, you know, you might have a very small technical error, but they also have that technical error, but it's very, very pronounced. And so suddenly you can see that, you're like, oh, bugger, I do that as well. You know, how did I fix it in them? This is what I've done. Okay, let's apply it to myself.
Absolutely.
And you know, you can kind of steal things from the people that you coach. You know, you can say, oh my god, like, you know, she lifts beautifully positionally, that's really impressive, I want to lift like that. Or, you know, he's got like lots of aggression, but he uses it in a really controlled way, and you know, it's obviously helping him a lot. I'd like to try that. And you kind of get inspired, and you see all these individual little things that you can take and combine and test out and try, and disregard some of it and use some of the rest of it. And I think, like, yeah, it gives you a better understanding of, you know, the snatch and clean and jerk, for sure. Makes you way better at problem solving, because, like, you know, it's not like, you know, weightlifting is not like computer science or mathematics where there's always, I'd say always,
there's a definitive answer. Yeah.
You know, it's not like if A then B.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
A then maybe B, but honestly, we're not really sure.
This is just a suggestion, so maybe we can try it and see if it fixes it.
Yeah. And like, you know, what works for one person is not going to work for another person. And so, like, you know, sometimes you're there, you're as a coach, you've given them the cue, you're like, yes, this cue will help you out, and they're still doing what is going on? Okay, I got to fix this. I got to figure out a way to get them to understand how this works. And, like, you know, and eventually you do, and you kind of you pick up different techniques and different methods, and you know, and then you start developing your library of you know, solutions, as it were. And yeah, it teaches you like so much about the lift and all the lifts, and you know, yeah. I think the only way you could ever be an expert in, you know, weightlifting is if you know, you don't have to become a full-time teacher, but you should have a period where you are teaching other people.
Yeah. I mean, I've always found that I've become a better athlete because of being a coach. I think if I hadn't have become a coach, I don't think I would have progressed as much as I have just being an athlete. That's obviously my perspective. And I think, like you said, it gives you not just an understanding, but an appreciation that, first of all, things take time. Second of all, it's not a case of, like you said, if A, then B. It's a case of, well, this is A, so maybe we could try B. We're not too sure if that works. If that doesn't work, then maybe we can try C. You know, like it kind of gives you, like you said, problem solving and troubleshooting. And you can do that in your own lifting and you notice that. Whereas if you don't know how to coach, you might not have as technical an understanding of the lift. Hopefully your coach has given you a fairly decent understanding of the lifts, but you also have to realize that your coach is not always going to be there. Like your coach is not there to hold your hand. Your coach is there to guide you towards the right path. And I think that's where the benefit comes in of having the understanding outside of what your coach is telling you, because you can then come up with your own beliefs and your own, like, oh, coach, so I noticed that I do this, but I'm not too sure how to fix it. That's the sort of athlete that you want to try and develop. It's not so much a, come on, come with me. Remember, stay over the bar. Good, good. Your coach isn't going to lift the bar for you. And that's why I'm saying, like, doing a level 1 and level 2, if you're going to actually use it and get something out of it, you need to figure out how you're going to use that. Like, why do you want to learn the lifts outside of just doing them? And generally, I think in our club, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but generally, I think we have a good grasp in terms of, like, not just telling someone to do it. We, like, sometimes people need to just be told, like, stay over the bar. Like, that's all they need to be told, or you need to use your legs more. But also, generally, especially if it's not just a new person to the club, but if you're saying, like, you need to use your legs more and you've tried it a couple of times and they still haven't really got it, you need to find out and dig a bit deeper and say, right, well, rather than me just saying use your legs more, stay over the bar, fucking explain it to the athlete.
Yeah. Why is it
Explain what you
important to use
mean.
the legs? Why is it important to stay over
Important
the
and
bar?
how is it going to help you? Because
Yeah.
if they understand that, if they know that, they can then go away and go, oh, fuck, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh my God, I can see
And
why he's
then
nattering on about this.
and then they're going to do it and they're going to be like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know, so then as soon as you say something like stay over the bar, they know exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And it might change athlete to athlete. Some people, if you say stay over the bar, it might be stay in the legs a little longer. Some people, they might throw their shoulders back too early or whatever the hell it is. But generally, like, it gives you an understanding of the lifts. And when your coach writes your program for you, you can then go, okay, cool. That's the reason that's there. And you
Yeah.
can have a little bit more autonomy in your training, in your coaching, and
This
the
is
relationship develops with, like, you and I, when we first met, it was more of like a teacher student sort of thing. Whereas now it's like, you know, you send me some videos, or you, like, write your own program, and then sometimes we look over it, but generally it's sort of just like you know what you're doing. If you need help, you'll message me, or we'll meet up and we'll lift together. And you know, it's not like you don't need help, but it's just you've
but it becomes,
grown as an athlete because you're
yeah,
also a coach.
it's like it's a kind of supportive relationship, isn't it?
Yeah,
I kind of know what I'm doing generally. I've figured out what works for me. I know vaguely how to lift, and anything else is just kind of, it's more like, oh, I'm not sure between A and B. What do you
yeah,
reckon?
yeah,
Or can I, get you to give me a little bit of a kick before these back squats?
yeah,
That kind of thing. It's more of a kind of like, just let's keep going. Let's rather than this is how you do it.
yeah, precisely. Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, the one thing that I wanted to touch on, because you were talking about, like, kind of explaining things to people, and I kind of like to liken it to, you pull out your phone and you've got Google Maps, or you go in the back of the car, and under the seat somewhere there's one of those old maps of the terrain.
AA
It's
one.
like, yeah, you can have, like, so many different kinds of maps, and if you see, like, each coach has their own sort of map of the
Yeah,
terrain. But the terrain is always the same. There is a truth to this. London is London, right? But
yeah,
maps of London are all different. But
yeah,
are they the same thing? I mean, yeah, they're describing the same terrain, but just going about it in a different way. And so I think as an athlete, like, speaking to lots of different coaches, and not even just coaches, just sources, You know, you might speak to your own coach. You might go and read some articles from Catalyst. You might, you know, listen to Weightlifting House podcasts. You might go and watch some videos on ATG, and all of that gives you a greater appreciation of what the terrain actually looks like. You know, what it is in truth, because you can't communicate that. You know, I can't download London into your head.
No.
I'll give you a map, you know? So it's like, that's where the difference is. There is a truth to it, but nobody can communicate that. You have to kind of go about it and learn, you know, what it is yourself.
Definitely. I think also I've mentioned this right at the start of the question was, I personally find that the best way to get better at something is to teach someone else.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're going to be a bloody expert on the first time that I know I wasn't. The first time I did my level 1 and my level 2, I spent 6 months coaching between my level 1 and my level 2, and then did my level 2. And then after my level 2, you know, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like that graph where like you know everything.
I love this graph. I know exactly the one you mean.
And then like a month later, you're like, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect or something like that.
Yes, I think it is a Dunning-Kruger.
It happens to everyone out of uni. Yeah. You graduate uni and you're like, yeah, I'm the shit. I've just graduated. I know everything. You start in your first job, and if you don't think I don't know anything, then you're not going to do very well. Unless generally you are, you know, very, very intelligent and whatever. But yeah, what's it called?
Yeah, Dunning-Kruger effect.
Nailed it.
There you go. Let me see if I can find a nice graph.
But yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like I did my level 2, and then the more you coach and the more you kind of expose yourself to new athletes, the way people move, the way, you know, other people program, it allows you to develop your own philosophy and your own way of doing things. I'm going
to have to use my phone because we're not sophisticated enough to have like little slides going on. Yeah. Can you even see? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, let me stop talking 1 second. It'll go back to you.
There you go. That's our little graph. So if you've been lifting for between 1 and 2 years, you're at the top of Mount Stupid.
Yeah.
Take it from me. You're at the top of Mount Stupid.
Yeah. I feel like I want to post that video on our Instagram. But yeah, I mean, it's true. And I think there's a lot of Russian or Soviet athletes and texts. They spend a lot of time developing their athletes, not just in the gym, but like anatomy, physiology, biology, you know, programming, stuff like that. They all understand the Soviet system, like the athletes, because it makes them a better athlete. If you understand the process of training and of being an athlete, when you're an athlete and you go into the gym and you feel like absolute shit, you can then make an informed decision and go, okay, I've got 2 choices here. Number 1 is warm up and see how I feel. If I feel good, just get through the session. No. Number 2 is you work up, you feel like absolute dog shit. And rather than you missing 70% or 75% snatches out in front of you or loopy bar path or whatever, then you go, as a coach, you go, yeah, what would my coach say? He wouldn't just say go up. He might do if he's a moron. But, you know, generally he'd go, well, you know what? If you feel like crap, let's just stay at this and just move well. Just do the work. Yeah. It's just honest work. I think it gives you an appreciation and an understanding of your body, how to recover, how to do this, how to do that, blah, blah, blah. You can devise your own sort of technical model based on how you move, where your strengths are. Is your back strong? Are your legs strong? You know, but so generally, yes, is the answer. It will always help.
Yeah. I think, were we going to discuss, so she mentioned the level 1 and level 2 course.
Yeah. So that was the question.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I think
so it was, the question was, what value do you see there? Bloody hell, I can't even speak English. What value? I can't even read. What value do you think there is for athletes in learning to coach, e.g., doing British weightlifting level 1 or similar?
I think like with the level 1 and 2, you know, they're useful because they allow you to actually like coach, like, you know, you've got a qualification to coach. You know, you might need that with your club, or, you know, you're going to need it if you're going to handle someone at, you know, a competition. You need to have your level 2 as an independent coach. But do they teach you how to coach? Do they? No, because, you know, yes, coaching is about, you know, actually having the knowledge, or at least having a base of knowledge, which it does give you. But coaching is, you know,
more than that,
more nuanced than that. You need to be able to talk with people. You need to be able to problem solve. You need to be able to, you know, handle a problem. You need to, there's so much more that goes into it. And the only way you pick that stuff up is, again, by learning, by experiencing. So I'd say, like, you know, your level 1 and 2 are useful. This is not what I mean, but it's probably the best way of describing it. It's like a box ticking exercise where it allows you to kind of
exactly what you mean
as an assistant coach.
I wanted to say that earlier, and I was like,
no. I really hope no one from British Weightlifting. I've done the level 2 online. It's really good. They put a lot of work into it, but it's like,
it is a box ticking exercise. It is.
Yeah, it's, you know, but
you learn the basics. If you don't know the basics,
you need to. Yeah, okay. You've covered the bar. You've done, right? You've hit the absolute required minimum. But if you're just hitting the absolute required minimum, you're not going to be a very good coach.
No, exactly.
And I think
you need to get out there and make mistakes and learn from other people and actually coach people.
Yeah.
I think for me, the best way that I learned was not just coaching people, but shadowing a coach. So I shadowed Adam for 6 months to almost a year, you know, and I think if I could have gone, I mean, still have time now, but I think generally, if you have the opportunity to learn from multiple people, do it.
Yes, 100%.
But don't just learn from one person's philosophy. You know, go to, because there's people, they have experience in so many different areas. Like, you know, if you go to a coach who potentially might have coached or been an athlete in the Bulgarian system, holy crap, the amount of stuff that you could learn from that. If you've got someone who's been out to the US and learned in the US system, holy crap, think about how much you could learn. Like every single country has their own little different way of doing things. You know, you know, some are a little bit more out there than others, but generally they all follow a very similar style of programming, periodization, lifting. And I'm just talking about, like, generally, not like, you know, the elite Chinese lifters versus the elite USA weightlifter, because it is slightly different. But I think generally it's considered fairly similar.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, one of the things that really sort of helped me in my, you know, early years was essentially, like, because obviously I started off, you know, with you, and we did our thing, and I was in London at the time, and then moved back to Chelmsford for just over a year. And so I had Ian basically looking after me for quite some time. And I picked up, you know, so many new things from Ian, and, you know, different approaches and different ways of, you know, I think just ripping something's head off, as opposed to being, like, you know, really, you know, a little bit more deft with things. And, you know, again, there's no right or wrong, but it's like, it gives you, spending time with different coaches gives you such a better appreciation of just, you know, just how to lift, just how to lift well. And again, it's one of those things where, like, you know, you speak with them and you like this and this works for you, you don't like that doesn't work for you, but you've discovered something new that you can then apply. So, you know, I think, you know, obviously training with other people, if, you know, you're a member of a club, or if you know a coach, or, you know, just ask to shadow them. Just ask to help out just where you can, because it's you know, God knows we need the help. So,
and ask questions. Lots of questions.
You know, I think the kind of
right ones, though. The right ones. Not saying that you know, no question is a stupid question, but there are some stupid questions. Just
but it's there are
I think that's me just being a bit.
Be prepared to ask stupid questions, but accept stupid responses. You know, I think, look, as long as your intent is like, look, I want to get better as an athlete or as a coach or as both, then that's fine. Ask away. Like, there you go.
Absolutely.
No.
Cool. Right. Should we end it there?
I think so.
Lovely stuff. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We shall catch you on the next episode of the Coaches Roundtable.
All right. Catch you then.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.